this is the way I put it. You might not like it. Take the question of when the next big earthquake in California will happen. Okay? The probability of another large earthquake on the San Andreas Fault, as I understand it, is 100%. Maybe it's 99, but it's very, very high. Okay? It is probably true, as I understand it, given the nature of the forces involved. Now, I'm obviously not a seismologist, so this is my second-hand reading of the physics, that the chances of the earthquake occurring at any particular day are an increasing function of how long it's been since the last one. So it's more likely now today than it was yesterday, since it didn't happen yesterday. But nobody can forecast when it will happen. Nobody can forecast when it will happen. We can just say, so what conclusion? Here's an event that is certain, very, very damaging, and you can't forecast. And by the way, it's implicit. I don't think you can forecast such events, because if you could forecast such an event, it wouldn't happen, because we would all act in such a way as to prevent it. These aren't forecastable events. They are loosely probabilistic events. I would say major financial crises are not certain in the way that the earthquake on the San Andreas Fault is certain, but they are highly probable events if we have certain sorts of characteristics in the financial and economic system. Again, even not certain, and we certainly can't forecast when they'll happen. But what we do, at least as I understand it, what we do in California is, and other earthquake-prone regions of the world, if they have the money, the resources, is you have building codes and protocols governing rescues and so forth, such that when the shock occurs, you can survive it. It'll still be very unpleasant, but you can survive it. So my answer to you would be, the way we deal with, we cannot forecast these events, and we'll never be able to forecast these events. That may be very bothersome for people in the financial sector, but I don't care about that, because they're just doing whatever they're doing. For the rest of us, what we want is the economy to be able to survive them and the financial sector to be able to survive them. So we need codes that govern economic policy both before and during the crisis, but above all before, that reduce the probability of such events and increase the robustness of the financial sector in the face of such events. And that's what I see my book as being about. So you might say it's the earthquake building code for a world prone to financial crises, such that, you know, so banks survive even if there are very large financial crises, and the really very large banking sectors survive even if there are very large financial crises. Really, the core financial sector survives, and the policymakers understand when they're getting closer to the possibility of a financial crisis and lean against it more aggressively than they would have in the past. So they get away from the idea, which was very common in the system, that if such a thing ever happened, it's going to be quite easy to clean it up, and therefore we don't need to lean against it. And that's, I think, how we should approach these things rationally. And the problem we had is not that we couldn't forecast it. In my view, the problem we had is we thought what happened was basically inconceivable. That is to say, such a thing could not happen. I'm not saying that you did as an individual, but collectively, the basic view was that such an event, and I taught all the central banks, could not happen. So, and then, of course, we can't cope with it. We were completely surprised, one surprise after another. And I think that if we recognize it can happen, we change our policies in such a way as to somewhat reduce the probabilities, and that's why I talk about the flows of capital in the world, where savings go, and so forth, and having institutions that can cope with the shocks, then I think we've done the best we can do.